Hello there and welcome to Community Life. Here we talk with the community experts about their life journeys and how they came into the community world. And today we have a conversation with Ilker Akansel, the most helpful and supportive community expert from Turkey, a hard rock lover, a great electric guitar player, music expert, community management, building and strategy consultant, CMX Connect, Istanbul founder and co-host, and just an amazing person who is always there for you. So, hello, Ilker.
Hello, hello. My reputation precedes me. Hopefully you just said all the good things and left all the all the bad things about, but hopefully you won't be able to find any.
I've never seen the bad things about you, so only the good. And when I first joined the CMX community, like you were like really you was the first person who I've noticed there. I don't know why, but you were so active, you were so helpful. So you were the first person I've ever remember. So I have the first question for you, and I noticed that your first tweet was in 2019, September
Mhm.
26, and you wrote, "As I promised, my first tweet, a nice moment with developers and at AMP Roadshow Istanbul. Thanks for coming." So, what was the promise and who did you give it to?
Well, that's a wonderful question. The promise was to get more, become more active on Twitter, and this is one of the reasons why I don't have a bit of I don't have a massive online presence other than work. So I actually joined socials. I think I joined Twitter. I think it was 2012 or something. So a whole something like 6 years before that Twitter was, that tweet was actually made. So
Yes.
at that particular show, I do remember that there were a lot of developers, and I was leading Google developer groups at the time as a coordinator here in Turkey. And they told me, look, you've got to be more active on Twitter, because as developers, we're all active on Twitter. And I promised them that I would actually take a picture there, and then that will be my first tweet. So that is the promise fulfilled. So great for as I said to you, you're great at catching these things, and this was the promise.
Yeah, it's an amazing promise to start. Sometimes you just have to drop some sentence and then the whole thing's just going and going and going. And where is your love for hard music from?
Well, that is also something really really interesting. So basically, I've been playing guitar, bass guitar, so to speak, close to about 30 years now. So my first gig was in April of 1993. So and I
How
started
old
to
were you in April 1993?
in April 1993. I think I was what 17, 16 to 17 years old, and I went into a club. It was a bit of a sort of a rock bar. I may have been there, because it was daytime, so supposedly there was no age limit. But I leave you to your own imagination. But that was my first gig, and of course, I had started playing a little bit earlier. To be honest with you, maybe because knowing some of your previous shows, and just having watched a few of the previous episodes, it's actually a bit of a family thing. So my dad was a musician,
Mhm.
and I resisted music for many many years. I wanted to do some other stuff, and eventually it caught up with me, and eventually I started playing when I was something like 14 years old, and then it sort of snowballed after that into a lot of things. I can give you more details as you ask.
Give me more details,
Give you more
because
details.
it's
That's what
like
we.
it's like it's an electric guitar, it's a bass guitar, but I also can imagine you playing piano, maybe violin, I don't know. So yeah.
Well, you're very right in that. Your sixth sense is wonderful. So this is it's a so here's the funny thing. So it's the 90s, and basically I had started sort of listening to hard rock music, and then eventually that turned into heavy metal. I don't know why. I had some really really good friends into it. I initially wasn't really into that sort of music, and that eventually, turned into something else. Maybe, something to do with my adolescence over there. I was just, it was a great time. Of course, it was also a great time to listen, because many of the bands that we know today, they were in their prime. I actually was I was so lucky to take part in, or and also see Metallica when they came to Turkey for the first time in 1993. So
Wow.
that was basically the first metal stadium gig in Turkey, and that was we're still talking about it today. It was because it was a first in many ways. And certainly, of course, having seen that, there was no turning back. And afterwards, it just became sort of deeper and deeper in terms of sort of music and everything. So in terms of instruments, I selected bass guitar. It's because of out of convenience, really. So as a family tradition, we really don't like yeah, sort of getting into queues, or where we have a lot of people just all just vying to do the same thing. Not that we jump them, but we just want to explore things, and that might be actually one of the things that got me into community management as well. We want to do and explore things which are relatively unexplored, so that we can be, let's say, someone with a bit of a weight over there. So bass guitar, it's a bit of a thankless instrument in a band. It actually carries the entire band. It's the only instrument that the drummer can actually hear because of the frequency, and it's the only instrument that the other higher frequency instruments like the guitar and the keyboards and other people, they can actually hear, because once again of the frequency and the the way it actually goes through the air. So but if you get it right, you completely disappear into the music, so no one actually knows what you're doing. If you get it wrong, everybody knows that you've done wrong, a little bit like a community manager. So basically, but I decided to get into it. I loved bass guitar, and I just thought that getting into bass would actually enable me to get into more bands, because everybody wanted to be a guitar player. They wanted to impress the girls or whatever,
Yeah, exactly.
or the boys if you're a girl guitar player, whatever. And of course, the singers are the same. The drummers are always the show people. So I just thought there was a big opening in the bass world. So I from day one, I become a bassist. But what you said is very interesting, because um, so in the 90s, of course, there was a lot of commotion in the Turkish sort of rock scene, but the bands were a little bit sort of still being in development, and the musicians as well. So we started bands. I've been in many bands, and a lot of time at the time when I was in high school, there was always someone missing. So, and people wouldn't turn up, being the rock stars. So you would just, have a drummer who wouldn't turn up, and then there would be a guitar player, a second guitar player, even a keyboard player who just didn't turn up, or we just didn't have one, but we wanted to rehearse anyway. So by that sort of requirement, I just had to learn all these things. So I play drums, I play keyboards, I sing, but hopelessly badly. I can do a little bit of vocals. I play guitar, and of course, I have my own instrument, which is the bass player. But I've done everything. I had to play everything in a number of different different gigs. So you're right in a way that I just play a lot of instruments, but not because of choice. It's because of necessity.
Do you think, at least in the karaoke?
I've done a couple of karaoke, under the influence of, I don't know, alcohol or whatever, years and years ago. But I wouldn't wish that under to my enemies. Definitely not not a pretty sight. My voice is not very nice, even though my dad used to be a wonderful singer and I sound like him. But certainly, I do need a lot of work in the singing department. This is one thing that you can't really fix with practicing, because there's no way you can change your vocal cords after some point.
So you've already told me a little about your dad, so please continue.
Sure. I know it's one of your questions, which is just great. So let's start with a bit of a tragedy, and then basically just work it into something a little bit nicer, so that people can actually just turn this around, maybe just listen to it as a something nice in a way as it's prolonging. I lost my dad in 2016 to a traffic accident,
Mm.
but it's basically he was a musician in the 60s in Turkey. So he did a few, I wouldn't call them LPs, like singles, basically some cover songs of some European, let's say, hits like Besame Mucho and other things. So he spoke like 6 languages, and is one of the reasons why I speak three.
Wow.
So, but because my mom and dad separated when I was sort of littleish, like something like 8 years old, um, we didn't, get very close until the later years. But certainly, I look little bit like him. So let's cheer people up. So because I know that you sort of ask about mums and dads. My mom looks a little bit. Maybe a little bit like you, because she's from North Macedonia, and the entire my mom's family are all blondes with green eyes and everything. And I'm the only person who looks like my dad, who's from Ankara, who's he's got dark hair and everything. So when I was a child, they always thought that I wasn't, a part of the family. I was some neighbor's kid who joined, because all my cousins are all blondes with, sort of fair skin and color guys and everything. I'm very happy with what I am, but certainly that's another thing that I got from my dad as well. But my entire mom's family, people still don't believe that I'm.
Did they ever told you if you were adopted? Like,
Um, every day I look in the mirror, and I know that I certainly am not adopted. Definitely, if it was an adoption, it's a great job that they found a proper lookalike. I really there aren't there aren't many things. I'm like the A5 size photocopied version of him. So basically, really don't I don't think that there's a lot of question about that one.
yeah, I mean, from your mother's side, like,
Well, I don't think so, because of course, a lot of things. So there's another funny thing that I can actually tell you. Of course, another reason why my cousins and everything, they are all sort of uh, looking up to me in terms of the person, and it's also the story of my name as well in that context. So my mom and dad are, the eldest of 3 siblings. So I am the first kid of my generation. The name İlker is a Turkish name, is a proper Turkish name. It's not a traditional name. It's made up of 2 syllables, ilk and er. İlk means first in Turkish.
mhm.
Er is a very old way of denoting a male person, a male child. So İlker is the first male child of the family. So if it was the last male child of the family, it would have been Soner, which is basically the last. So
Mhm.
there's this, very funny, interesting tradition with, the family of, my name, let's say, arrangement. So therefore, that's the reason why they wanted to name me with the name that I've got today. And certainly, that really was a very interesting part of my life story as well, because being the oldest child of my and the first child of my generation meant that I was the first one to go to university, the first one to venture into many, many things. I've read many, many years ago that maybe it's just total utter tosh, but uh, basically it's your name has a little bit of an effect on your destiny, or what you do in life, or your outlook. It's not given to you completely by chance or by some 2 people who actually had you, but perhaps it may actually give you a little bit of direction as well. And maybe again, you will find this very kitschy, but come to associate my name, or the situation I was in, the genealogy of my family, with many of the things that I've done.
Tell me one story.
Tell you one story. Well, basically, again, I was again, the first one to, go to a very prestigious university in Turkey, which is basically through a central examination. You had to be, in order to get to that university, be admitted to that university, you had to be within the first 1,000 people out of 1.5 million applicants, which is, a bit of a feat. And it actually cost me a few years of my life. And then basically, I was the first one to go abroad, to completely, relocate abroad, even become a foreign citizen, spend, maybe over a decade in Europe. And a lot of people actually told me that I wasn't going to be able to do those things. For some reason, a lot of I was really, really keen on, proving these people wrong, because many of the things that I've done, a lot of people told me that I couldn't do it, or it cannot be done for a number of reasons. And I think that, I'm just sort of loosely correlating them to my name as well.
And when people tell you that you can't do something, how do you feel?
I just said thanks, and I just don't listen to them. That's one of the that's one of the things, because I've noticed that there are so many things that we sort of restrict ourselves. Once again, I read it a few weeks ago, that if you don't fix your problems, they become your restrictions. They become your boundaries. So basically, I try to sort of overcome any sort of boundary. I think people's lives are limitless. There are so many things that you can do, regardless of the circumstances. And if you put your mind right, definitely there's a lot of capabilities that you could do. So again, just going back to the example, so the year was 95 when I graduated from high school. I went to the this sort of centrally administered exam, and I just couldn't get into any university. I was really cocky, and it was the biggest it was the very first disappointment of my life in that context, because it's a yearly exam. It's only done like once in a year, just like the SATs and other stuff in the US. And if you just fail, you just have to wait for another year to be able to be admitted. So that year that was the biggest disappointment, because of course I was expecting at least to make it to just some of the, let's say, more average universities, which I actually selected, but I wasn't able to get into any of them. And from that point onwards, it was a lot of people, my family, my friends, a lot of people actually remotivated me to get prepared and get into an intensive course for a year to turn things around. And I learned that early on that if you try something, and if you try harder, and if you completely believe it, it's possible. I do remember very fondly that I started this intensive course, and I was completely, it was one of the lowest points of my life, because basically you have no idea what's going to happen, whether you're going to be able to, to have an education. And of course, it's a massive change from the year before, because you were so adamant, that you were so certain that you were going to be progressing into university. A lot of your friends did. You're really, really young, in your 19 whatever years old. Certainly, it was a bit of a shock. And I do remember when I started this sort of intensive course, and they started with a couple of exams to establish your level, so that they can actually put you to the focused classes for the different levels of people. And I started doing really, really well in these sort of mock exams. And then I do remember very vividly, then I just started to think, I think we can make this. I think we can, do something very, very well here. Let's try and push this. Let's try and push Ilker to his limits. Let's try and see what he can do under the circumstances. Let's see what happens if you truly believe and if you do what is required, what is necessary to make this thing happen. And the rest is really, really interesting. Even I cannot believe some of the things that have happened to me in my life. I don't want to sound cocky, but it's all about the capabilities within yourself. And I think this is something that I have been telling to community members that I meet. And definitely, there were a lot of people who were really motivated about, my total belief in them, because I believe in them just like I believed in the younger version of me back then.
So you told that to those people who are not believing in you, you just say thanks and do not listen to them. And I just can't imagine you arguing with somebody. So tell me, what can make you argue with somebody?
In Turkish, we say the quiet horse kicks the hardest. So basically,
Got it.
I have I don't know if it exists in any other languages as well, possibly in a different shape or form. Um, you see, arguing, I did argue with people, of course. We're all people, we all have feelings and stuff. But over the years, and especially after a certain age, it really, you start to see, it becoming really unnecessary. It's just, first of all, it's you being angry with someone is like, you drinking a poison and expecting someone else to die. Basically, it's like that. And certainly it's no good. And of course, we're all humans, and we get agitated, we get angry, we get stuff. So um of course, I don't like people who are not genuine, people who lie, and people who just don't care about what you say and other stuff. But there are various ways of let's say, letting your discontent through. So there have been many times in my younger years, because you have this sort of blood boiling, let's say, young times where you're like, you're really acting before you're thinking. And
Yeah.
certainly there were times that I ended up in some disagreement with people. It's not a pretty sight, because I sort of try and I become a really sort of brutal version of myself, but that hasn't happened for many, many years. It's all about basically just with age, and certainly with the other things, with the other methods that you see, that you acquire along the way in your life journey, that you're able to sort of just take that anger, take that disappointment, and then channel it into something else. And I found out that, if you are really, really cross with someone, the only way to really make them unhappy and then get some sort of revenge is for you to be successful, and just prove them wrong. It's the only way, and it's the fairest way. It's the gentle person's way. Let's not say gentleman or gentlewoman. Let's be very inclusive, because
Yeah.
it's important for all genders and for people from all walks of life to adopt that. And certainly your success is the sweetest thing that you can do in such circumstances.
Did you ever fight?
Did I ever fight? Maybe when I was small, yes, certainly in school or whatever. Because funnily enough, I was the shortest. I'm not I'm not like that anymore. I'm basically about 175, something like 5'10", so like an average height here in Turkey. But when I was in high school, I was the smallest of the
Mm.
class. I was completely tiny. I had these glasses, and I had a bit of a loud mouth. So therefore, I got picked on very easily. So I ended up in all sorts of disagreements. But you just go through these sort of things when you're when you're a child, when you're adolescent. Really, there's no there's no how can we say it doesn't contribute to your later life. It's just things that happen to you when you're a kid. But
Yeah.
certainly, it was an interesting and funny time.
Tell me about Ilker as a kid. So, what was your childhood look like, and like, what is your picture of your childhood in your mind right now?
Well, interesting because I'm an only child, so I don't have any brothers and sisters.
Did you ever want
Basically,
to have brothers or sisters?
well, I have a brother from my dad's second marriage, but
Mm.
I don't have any brothers or sisters that I grew up with in a way. But I had cousins and friends and other people that I grew up with as a sort of larger family. But I always was a quiet kid, quite introverted actually, even in some respects in the earlier years of my life. Um, Massive imagination. I started drawing when I was 3 years old.
Mm.
So I do have a number of framed drawings, which hopefully I'll be able to share with you because I want to get them copyrighted in NFT at some point. But
Nice.
I used to draw when I was a kid. I started drawing at the age of 3, and everybody thought in high school that I was going to be either like an artist or like an architect or like someone who's going to be into arts and stuff. So I decided actually. So there were a lot of twists and turns in life, and I eventually decided to go with information technology, with IT, and that of course led me through a wonderful life. But this was one thing that I always wanted to do when I was a kid, and when I
Mm.
was in high school as well. Um, so funny things happened. For example, at the time when I was going to go to university, I actually wanted to study transportation design because I was always into cars, and I wanted to design cars, and I wanted to, let's say, sort of draw them, build them, come up with sort of interesting designers and stuff. But and I did Italian high school, so I speak Italian as well. So I actually wanted to go to Italy to study,
Mm.
vehicle design. Imagine me working at Pininfarina or Ferrari or something like that. That didn't happen due to a number of reasons. One of the reasons being that the Italian school for design was only for 3 years, and Turkey would only accept 4. And there were a lot of things that it restricted me to accept a school that was also accepted in Turkey as well. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't go. And I also didn't think at the time, the circumstances, the ecosystem didn't really allow a lot of people to be successful as designers. Roll on, so many years with the internet and everything. Now everybody can actually do some design, or they can be designers, they can be artists or whatever, at a with a fraction of the effort that it took, those years.
So, since that time you were a child, what changed? Like,
Good question.
what would you like to maybe have right now that was there, or maybe something become better? Like, I'm not asking you about everything, just something you want to point out.
Well, to be honest with you, since I was a child, it was a bit of a well. First of all, what changed? A long time has passed, that's for sure. And of course, just like the saying goes, things change and we change with them, which is an old, Latin saying. So I don't know. To be very honest with you, I've come to a massive peace with the versions of me in the past. Certainly, when I was a kid, when I was in high school, when I was at the university, which was a very changed person, the university bit certainly compared to the previous one. But then I was, a young adult in that regard, and certainly after that, so many things have happened. I spent about 13 years in Europe. I did lots of very, very interesting things, and certainly I've come to peace with everything that happened there, and certainly it will be very difficult to bring back anything that pertains to that time, because it was so tied up to circumstances, me being, in the time that I was there. But one thing that happened was, and this has recently come back, so I'm very, very happy about it, is that especially when I was, working really, really hard to sort of progress in my career in Europe and also back in Turkey since 2013, that I had stopped drawing. Um, it's really, really funny because I actually draw when I'm in the zone. So when I'm actually listening to, for example, a lecture, or what I used to in the school,
Yeah, yeah.
I used to start drawing things like, I don't know, planes, dragons, cars, people with a guitar and whatever stuff like that. So I used to draw them, and basically, I my parents actually got called to school one day, and then they just said, your kid's not really listening. He just doesn't care. So he's not gonna be successful because he's not listening. He's just drawing things. So his mind is somewhere else. And they actually had to assure the teachers, saying that he's actually listening. He's actually just listening and taking in everything that you say. But it's his mechanism of sort of manifesting that he's in the zone.
Yeah.
So this was actually an indicator that I was really inspired by what is happening. So that actually stopped for a long time, especially when I was, of course, trying to do things that weren't 100% inspiring for me.
Hmm.
So it is one very interesting indicator that I've actually come to terms quite lately. And I'm really, really happy that, along with music, along with, other things, a few other things, it's one indicator that I am inspired by whatever I'm doing. And I'm really, really happy to see that it's, making a comeback.
You remember the sound of the dial-up internet.
Yes.
So for those people who don't know, it's like you could wait for 3 hours to download one song.
Mhm.
So what was the file you tried to download many times and finally succeeded?
Trying to remember. Look, that was again a long time ago. So the first internet connection in Turkey was in '93. I started my degree in management information systems in '96. So at Boğaziçi University, the Bosphorus University, the fabled in Turkey. This is another funny thing. So I'm going to tell you a funny story, and you will laugh. I love to see your laugh because it's so contagious, so cool. The reason, one of the funny things. So remember what my name signifies, right? The first
Yes,
person.
the
So
first man child.
yeah, the first, being the sort of the first person to do this. So 95, I completely screw up the exam. In 96, the university that I want to go into, which is an ex-American university in Turkey, it's the oldest American university in North American soil. It's 150 years old. Not 150, it's actually much more than that. It was a few years ago. Anyway, so in 95, I tried to get, there were no IT or management information systems departments or divisions or, degrees in Turkey at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So in 96, I'm trying to take the revised exam or, take the exam again. I find out that the university is opening up three departments: one for international trade, one for tourism administration, and the third one is a management information systems, which I had never heard about. I make it, and because my surname starts with an A, and it's an American university that actually enrolls and whatever, just everything is with an alphabetical order. By 10 and a half seconds, I got the first management information systems diploma in the Turkish education history in the year 2000. So in the graduation ceremony, I was their first student to graduate. ever. And this is also because it's the Turkey's only, at the time, it was the only department. So that
Yeah.
was, again, I sort of associated with my name. Anyways, going back to your question, in 96, that was the time that I actually got acquainted with internet. It was very expensive. It was very difficult. Of course, we were over the phone line.
Yeah.
And my university, along with a couple more, actually had access to the internet through a wide area network with which connected to the Middle East Technical University in Ankara, which was the main gateway of Turkey with a, I don't know, cable or satellite or whatever it was. It was so primitive. It was so, but it was so also, how can we say it? It was so innocent as well. Imagine a situation where internet is something so exciting. It is something that you actually connect to. So it was there was a verb called getting on the internet.
Yeah.
So imagine this. So we're never getting off the internet today. We're umbilically connected. Our phones are connected, even our kettle, our fridge, our whatever, everything
Exactly.
is now connected to the internet. Then it was an event. Then it was something that you would actually connect, get on, and then try and dial, just get information and everything. Um, I really don't remember what happened, but I do remember that we had it was the first time that I actually had email. It was the university email. It was through what you call a dummy terminal. It
Uh-huh.
had there was an IBM server that actually collected the emails and sent the emails centrally. So you would have to book a time, which was an hour at the time, in a central, university. I think in some, in a central building, and I think some universities are still doing this in a way. And basically, in that hour, you would be able to, sort of communicate with people, which was so fascinating.
Yeah.
I don't remember the first file, but I do remember my first website.
Hmm.
Um, I was a great fan of Microsoft's front page, which was now, of course, is very primitive, a tool for making websites. Originally, I actually learned how to code HTML using Notepad, which is the right way of coding it. You just write all the HTML tags yourself.
Yeah.
But of course, front page automated a good portion of that. And I do remember, as part of an assignment at school, I actually created a website for my car,
Hmm.
which was a Peugeot 106 at the time. So that was something that I just remember. When you asked me that question, that sort of immediately popped up to my head. And maybe the very first arrangement in community. But I have a little bit more of a story to tell you about that.
Go on,
Go on.
Ilker,
I know. I
please.
want you to say go on
Please.
and everything.
Yes.
So people sometimes ask me, how did you get started in communities and other stuff? So being one of the very first students at university, um, of course, because the department was so young, we didn't have a club or anything.
Hmm.
We had a computer engineering club, which was around for some time, but that was for engineers. They talked and they, made events about engineering, as you would imagine,
Yeah.
lots of machine level coding and some hardware, blah, blah, blah. So I applied to start a club, which was called Information and Communication Society. My first,
Hmm.
I actually sort of spearheaded people. I just got people around and everything. It got rejected due to a number of reasons because the computer engineering club was so powerful and they
Ah,
sort of roadblocked it. They just
okay.
didn't want another information technology club in the university. It would basically split the interest, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
For example, that was a funny time because I ended up just marching to the rectorate. You told me, what makes you angry, so that was the time when I people stopped me and I sort of walked into the office or whatever, stuff like that. The sort of things that I really don't want to remember. Anyway, I started a non-official society. I just said, screw this. I don't want to, I don't want approval from whatever. I'm just going to start a community. And basically,
Did you
started.
name it community that way, or it was a club or group
It was
or?
a club. Well, basically, the university club. What happens is that the university club, if you get approved by the university administration, you get a room. You
Mm,
basically get
okay.
resources. You get some money that you can actually spend on events and other stuff. So just like
Mm,
any other club in
yeah,
universities,
yeah.
you just get some approval. You're able to represent. You're represented in events or whatever stuff like that. There were also some societies as well. There were societies about literature, chess, whatever stuff like that. So you don't have to be an approved club, but you don't get resources.
Yeah,
Everything
yeah.
it lies with you. So I started one of them, and basically, I was also a member of the approved and sort of legal music society, being a musician.
Hmm.
And I actually sort of motivated them into supporting us for a completely, unapproved big event concert, which we, organized to draw attention that we never got approved and stuff like that. And funnily enough, the after I graduated in 2000, the Computer Engineering Club changed its name to Information Technology Society, which was always what I wanted to do. And they even got presidents for their club, which graduated from my department as well. So in a way, I succeeded, albeit just a few years later down the line, which was really, really funny. And I actually told them this story because maybe something like 15 years later, they actually invited me to speak, at an event of, this particular, sort of club. And I just told them about the story as well.
So finally, even though like you were not the one, but some kind of you succeeded in some kind of way, let's say.
I succeeded in some kind of way, but I think, of course, but this was again, something like 20 years ago. So, again, these successes, at the time, of course, they may be significant, but right now it's just, the things just talking to talk about. It's just, they just belong to a time when, I was, let's say, starting out in life. And then basically, I put, so many interesting episodes on top of that.
When did you feel that confidence to connect people, to collect people, to stand for yourself? Were you always confident, or it was some period of your life when you gained it?
I think it was at the university when I actually started because just like this, the story I told you, it's basically I basically I was able to start to believe in myself in some way. In When I was at high school, before that, I never had that sort of confidence, and then this particular change in my life, it sort of allowed me to start to think that anything is possible. And that's one of the reasons why, of course, I decided to move abroad in the summer of 2000. In 98, there was a big economic crisis that arrived to Turkey as well. And, things weren't going great. A lot of my friends weren't able to find jobs, regardless of, university and everything. So I decided that, I would be sort of moving abroad. So I decided to go to the UK
Hmm.
because it was one of the few places that I spoke the language of. And certainly, after that, the initial plan was to stay there for a few years and then see what happens. And then that sort of rolled into a decade, which was really, really funny.
And why didn't you stay there?
A lot of things actually. So I went to the UK to start a degree in international business at the University of Manchester. It's another time that I was a little bit angry. I went to London Business School, as London School of Economics, not London Business, London School of Economics first. I heard so many good things about this place. At the time, of course, there was only the internet was fine still, but there wasn't these sort of communities or social media. There was no social media. Imagine.
Yeah.
So Google is 2 years old, so it was a different time. So anyway, I went to London School of Economics and I just told them, look, can I speak to someone? I have a few questions about some of your degrees. They told me in no uncertain terms that this was London School of Economics and nobody had time for me or speak to me about, there was this was the prospectus. If I liked any of the degrees that I should apply and, hopefully they'll bother looking at it. And I just said, I really don't want this sort of attitude. So I just got into a train and went to Manchester Business School, which is today. And certainly because it's the north of the UK, I had a much warmer sort of welcome. And then I decided this is a nice place and I really like the attitude here. And I'm going to be staying here for a long time. So I actually stayed in Manchester for many, many years. I moved there in 2000. I didn't leave until 2009. What happened was I did a lot of different things over there, mostly in logistics. And then I found a job at Google in Switzerland,
Hmm.
working for Google Street View. You know that
Yeah, yeah.
the cars that take pictures of the roads and everything. So I'm the person who put your house up on the internet. Not really, but that was an interesting job because it actually played to a lot of my strengths that I had accumulated at the time. It was about operational management of street view cars. I actually accumulated a lot of experience, managing fleets of vehicles, managing fleets of commercial vehicles in Europe. So it was directly relatable, and I got. It was a really, really funny time. I did another thing that probably people associate with me, one of those, weird and interesting things to get that job. So I applied in the winter of 2008. I haven't heard from them, and I just said, "Look, I'm perfect for this job. Why I'm not, hearing anything from these people?" So God bless dear Viola. I love her. She's one of the best recruiters I've ever worked with, and a great person as well. She was a recruiter at Google. She reached out in January of 2009, and she said, we'd like to do some phone interviews. The video interviews were first a phone interview, and basically there will be a lot of interviews with different team members, in different days. So I just said to her, look, I'm in Turkey right now. I was in Turkey. I was in Istanbul at the time visiting my family in January. And I just said to her, look, I would like to come to Zurich to meet these people face to face. I paid for my own ticket. All I want from you is to line them up on just one day for me.
Mhm.
So they can actually, meet me, like back to back. And
Mhm.
in the evening, I'll go back with the evening flight back to Istanbul. And that's why she's brilliant, because a lot of other people that I work with in technology in big companies, they haven't done anything like that. And she said, yeah, I'll just, do it. And she arranged it, and I got the job there and then by just flying out and then basically just doing it. This was something that I decided. I just said, why not just go all out and then just express my interest in that way, just be in front of them, get in front of them basically, and then just see them face to face. And that was another time that I just really truly believed that I would actually just make this happen.
You live in Turkey is one of the popular touristic places.
Mhm.
So where do you usually go for a vacation?
Where do I usually go for a vacation? Well, I guess you're asking in Turkey.
Most likely. It depends. I don't know.
Well, I mean, because when I go for vacation, I try and go to. I look at the entire world as me and my wife. We love traveling, and we try and go to places that we haven't been. In Turkey, usually I go to the western part of it, to Cheshme, to Izmir. I love that area, to that that part, and also Bodrum as well. Those are very classic places in Turkey for people from Istanbul to go to. Um, Abroad, it depends on what I want, the season, what the season is. If there's anything nice and nice and specific, I like to go to places. I like to go to cities. I'm not a bit of a, I'm not sort of a mountain dweller. I'm not the sort of person that goes to, I don't know, forests and lakes and other stuff. I'm not, I'm not, I've never been keen on that. I loved exploring cities and the cultures, and just, sitting in a square or something, just, or just, wander through the streets, and just, try and wonder what happened, and, how people lead their lives and other stuff.
So this is the perfect way for you to spend a vacation. Just go to some city and explore it.
Yes. Also, try and explore the history, and try and see if I can sort of sense sense the feeling in a city. So some cities are very industrial, and the weather, the culture, the things that the country and the city has actually gone through, they have influenced these places massively. So I love to explore those. I'll try and get a real sense of what the city is about. Some cities are merchant cities. They have always been. Some cities, they've been very, very much affected by sort of historical happenings. Some others are sort of affected by weather, by nature, by these sort of conditions, and they've completely adapted. And you can actually see it people as well. So I like that sort of thing. For example, Manchester, the northwest England, for example, is a very interesting city. It's very underrated in our place. It's very underrated. It's very industrial. It's the birth of the industrial revolution. I love Manchester. I think it actually was. I think it was selected as one of the most livable cities in Europe, not because of the weather, because the weather is terrible. It's just rains and rains, but it's because of the amenities, the proximity, the people, so being nice and warm, and of course a lot of the other things that make the region and the city what it is today. So I try and explore these things.
And when you go to some cities, do you prepare? Do you read some history, etc., or you just go, just explore, talk to the people? So what is the process of exploration for you?
The process of exploration is, I try to strike a balance. I try to strike a balance, because if you read too much, then you program your mind into, doing the sorts of things. So the spontaneity is very, very important, I think. So there have been times where, I just sort of wandered around. So you will like this. I'm going to tell you another thing. So one of the very interesting and fun things that I've done last year. I've done another thing that is, sort of spur of the moment, unexpected, weird and funny stuff. After nearly 2 years of lockdowns and a lot of, bad times in Turkey as well, just like everywhere else, during the pandemic, finally, towards the end of the summer of 2021. There was a little bit of opening up around the world in terms of travel and a lot of other things. So me and my wife, we wanted to plan for something, and we had to go to France because of the visas. Basically, we were able to obtain a visa, travel visa through France, and the Schengen visa has a sort of restriction that you have to enter the country of the issue that issued the visa first, and then you can do whatever you want in the subsequent trips. So that was a limitation. And then we decided, how can we make this work in the best possible way? We haven't gone anywhere for nearly 2 years. How can we plan something that we can actually, relish and tell for many, many years? So I was just watching a few YouTube videos, and there's this one guy, because I like cars, who's got a big, sort of luxury car garage in Turkey, big car aficionado. I saw that he shipped his Porsche from Istanbul to France
Hmm.
with a ship, with a cargo ship that actually takes these sort of private cars as well, because there are a lot of Turkish people living abroad. They bring the cars in and blah blah blah. So, and it's not that expensive. And compared to, let's say, if you were to sort of fill up and then just drive through entire Eastern Europe and then spend a week, whatever.
Yes.
Um, and then we decided, why not? So we traveled to this big logistics port outside of Turkey. So I shipped my car, just like we decided, and in 24 hours the plan was set. Nothing else. So I sent my car out, and basically just put it in a ship, and people just didn't believe, because they were so accustomed of seeing sort of European cars, European people, Turkish people living in Europe, basically coming here, and a lot of cars returning. They had never shipped a Turkish car out for a long time. Even the customs guys, they were trying to find out the right procedures. They just didn't. They never accessed the screens that were, used for the local cars to be shipped out temporarily. This was really funny. And people were asking, why are you going? You don't live there. And I'm just saying, I'm just going there just for a little bit of a trip. Funny. So I shipped it to the south of France, to a town called Sète. People who are listening to this, if they're French, they're probably cursing to my terrible French accent, which I've never been good at. Anyways, so we got a one-way ticket. Me, my wife, and my mother-in-law as well, who was joining us for a few days, to Toulouse in France, one way. We went there, hired a car, collected mine, and then basically stayed in Europe for nearly 3 months. So drove. These were the places that I always wanted to see, but I had no plan. So from Toulouse, it was natural that we went to northern Spain, so to places like Bilbao, Santander, and then basically all the way to Santiago de Compostela, and then from there we went into northern Portugal to Porto, drive down to Lisbon, and then from Lisbon we sent my mother-in-law back, and then afterwards we continued. We stayed in the Algarve for a few days, and then basically drove into Spain and then to Andalusia, which I always wanted to do because we had a car. It
Yeah.
was, and nothing was planned. We actually, just woke up in the morning, and we were actually working as remote nomads in a way, and we were still sort of doing stuff in our laptops and stuff, um, replying to emails and stuff like that. And then basically, we were able to sort of continue all the way to south of France. We stayed in Cannes for a week, which was really funny. In the winter, it was really cheap because Cannes
Uh,
is a summer town.
yeah.
And then, oh, by the way, I forgot that I celebrated my birthday in Madrid, and actually, my birthday coincided with the 100th. It wasn't my birthday; it was the day before. It coincided with the 100th anniversary of the opening of the Prado Museum, so we went there for free, which was a massive coincidence. Anyway, so we went all the way to to back to France, and then to Italy, where we lived for a month. So we had a friend who had an office, and they weren't really doing much in December. So
Mm.
we lived in northern Italy for a month in that place, and then we decided in January of 2022 that we should be going back. So we drove back to Turkey. So this was another sort of spur of the moment thing. So that hopefully gives you an answer as to how unplanned the things are from my end when I'm trying to explore something.
Yeah, and you just making me to ask more questions, and I
Go
wish
for
to
it.
have the sky as the limit to our conversation, but time is the limit.
Yeah,
So let's jump to the rapid fire questions.
go for it.
You know, I didn't know the answer for this question when I was preparing, but after you told me like car or train.
Car, definitely.
So
I've also
yeah.
done car on the train as well, Eurotunnel and other things. So, It could also work if it's going to, be advantageous. Also, a car and a train would do.
Quicker or better?
Better.
What are your favorite color and song? Yeah, I know it's a hard question, but one
Song
song.
is an extremely hard question,
Yes, I
but
know.
the favorite color is black, as you probably understood. The favorite song of Yuri as well,
Uh,
which is "Smoke on the Water" by Deep Purple. It has a lot of meanings for me.
if you were a superhero, what superpower would you have?
If I was a superhero, what superpower would I have? Uh, there's this. Where was it? There was this TV series. I think that it was an X-Men. I've never been a massive sort of superhero fan recently. Anyway, when I was a kid, I used to read a lot of Spider-Man. So
Yeah.
probably I would be Spider-Man if you asked me some time ago. But having seen bits of X-Men, there's this girl. I think she assumes the power of someone of the other X-Men temporarily when she touches them. I
Uh-huh.
think I would have wanted to be that person.
Uh, one more hard question. Who do
Go
you
for it.
learn from the community world? Name one person.
Who do I learn from community world? Right. Professionally, there are a lot of people. It's very difficult to say because I learn a different thing from every professional. So professionally, I would love to say, I mean, Richard Millington, I admire him so much because his thinking is very simple. But I love, Jono's approach into some of the things. I know that it's many names, not
Yes,
one,
exactly.
but I'm going to connect it into something really, really like every community person that I met, every community professional that I met, they taught me something different. And you will be very surprised that in terms of empathy and in terms of, you know, resilience, but like really resolute resilience, I've learned it from you.
Thank you very much. I am like,
Yeah,
uh,
cheeks are red. But this is
yeah.
the case. It's this, honestly, under the circumstances, we all know and we all follow. To be able to do what you do, what you did, and what you keep on doing in over there, it's just probably it doesn't exist in anybody else. So, not honestly, but this is probably people have said this to you, but of course, this series of events is about me as the guest or whatever whoever else is the guest, but it's also a little bit about you as well. So certainly, if we were to finish these sort of series of questions, let's finish it on you for a change.
No, no, no. I have two more questions for you. So
Go for it.
name two people from the community world who I definitely have to ask for a community life conversation.
Uh, I'm trying to remember. I haven't looked at the whole list, but did you ask Taylor Harrington?
Not yet. So
Go
she's the
for it.
first.
She's I mean, she's her energy is just absolutely wonderful. Certainly. So probably the second one is um, well, I'm gonna be very I'm gonna be cheeky and name three because there are two people who are very I'm very close to and they're very meaningful to me. One of them is Jenny,
Hmm.
Jenny Michael, and the other one is Todd. The funny thing about Todd Nielsen is that he's done so many things in his life. He's been a trained dancer. He's got a very, very colorful background. So he'll tell you some amazing stories. Just for those stories alone, not because I'm partnering with him, just doing some stuff, but he's got some big skeletons in the closet that he'll probably be able to. I'm pulling his leg now, but definitely lots of really cool stories that he can tell.
You know, I will make it a little easier because Jenny was already a guest. So just
Oh,
Taylor
yes,
and
yes, yes.
Todd. Yes.
Go
So
for it.
is there one question I should definitely have asked you but didn't?
Um, I'm just thinking about it. One question that you've asked me, but you didn't. Um, Maybe a question that you may wish to ask. Um, where's the course? Where are you heading? Where is the community world heading? And what does the future hold you? Because yeah, I think any question about the future is they became for anyone in these sort of events or everything, they became very difficult but also very entertaining questions to answer, because when you go to sort of job interviews, you just hear, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yes.
So that question is now meaningless, but also the most meaningful. That means that first of all, you now thinking about 5 years ahead is meaningless, but also is very meaningful because you also have to be prepared for the uncertainty, which means that you have to assume skills and a thickness of your skin that you never had to assume before. You've got to be prepared for everything.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's more like it's a covert question of asking, how will you prepare yourself now that we've seen everything in this interesting world?
Everything in a few years, I would say, you know.
Exactly, in a few years. So if you told me in 2018 or something that this would happen, I probably would have fallen from this chair from laughing. But
Yes, exactly.
so that's why this is a very, very funny question to ask people. It's like, where is your journey heading to? Or what your what's the course? What are the things that you're keeping in mind as just sail into interesting uncharted waters, sort of thing? So these are the things that come to my mind. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah, exactly. And where are you heading to?
Where am I heading to? So this is very funny. If this was a job interview, I would say, I want, I'm heading to a situation where I want more responsibility and I can drive, I can give more value to community. So
Uh,
um, maybe this was the answer to the question. So
yeah.
some people asked me, and I mentor, maybe you shouldn't say this in an interview or in a recording like this, but because it's such a pro bono work, I mentor a lot of people. A lot of people come up to me for some reason.
Hmm.
Um, I've professionally mentored people, startups. I've earned money from it. I've worked as a professional trainer as well in project management, blah blah blah. So I've earned I've also earned my living from training people as well. I was a teacher at university at some point, a part-time teacher as well. But a lot of people come up to me for some reason, and then they asked for my opinion. They see me as someone who can actually give feedback about some of the things that they're planning for. And maybe the question that you may have asked was why, but because you haven't found out any of these people online, this is the reason why probably you haven't asked this question. But I'm going to answer it. So I told you I was the first person to graduate, and that comes in management information systems and in my field, blah blah blah. So that comes with a curse. So what is the curse? The curse is you're the only child, you're the first one of your generation in your family, and you're the first graduate in a field that no one has heard of in Turkey, which means that you have no one to ask anything. You just have to figure the heck out of things on your own. So made a lot of mistakes, made a lot of things that I shouldn't have done, maybe in retrospect anyway. But
You
I would
never
have done the
know.
same
You never
anyway
know.
because I would have done the same thing because I just didn't know what I know now. Um, so along those lines, I was bruised so much professionally and personally in the first years of my professional career about this that I gave a promise to myself. I just said, if I live to tell the tale, I don't know, 20 years into my professional career, I am going to help. I'm going to say yes to anyone, absolutely anyone who asks for my help, because I didn't get any. So this is the reason why I'm going to go back to your original comment about me. This is the reason why when you entered the CMX world, you saw me helping people out. This perhaps is the answer that you were looking for all along this recording. And this is something that has been following me along and probably will, come with me until the day I die, because I really like helping people. Maybe because also, I was unable to get it when I really, really didn't, when I really needed it. So, and that's one of the reasons why people tell me that I'm, people, tell me that community building is the right job for me, because of course, this is what community is about, isn't it?
Yeah, helping people for sure. So, at least I was right about telling that you are one of the most helpful person I've ever met. So that's exactly, you just proved this point. And, Ilker, I told you that you were one of the first people, and I'm just curious why didn't I ask you to this conversation earlier? But it's just the life, how the life is, and here we are. And thank you very much for telling those amazing stories. Thank you very much for telling a little more about Ilker the human, not about Ilker the community builder.
Yeah,
So
community machine.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's super. It's so nice to get to know you better. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for being in this community world. And like from my heart, you're really helping people. So please do it. Please continue doing it. And you're just amazing. Thank you for being so amazing.
You're making me blush now, which is not always not very easy. But certainly, I really really enjoyed it, and I know that you will ask all the right questions and all the the nicest of questions. Honestly, it's one of the most enjoyable retrospective events, retrospective sort of things, podcasts or recordings that I've actually been on. Really, really big pleasure, and I was really looking forward to this. And again, it goes both ways. Again, on the realms of this program, on the realms of this recording, it was wonderful. But generally speaking, as I said, I have a lot of admiration for you. And anyone taking part in this series, I think they will have done a wonderful thing, speaking to you.
Thank you very much. And, meet you in the community, like we still here, we always here. So meet you in the community world and maybe even on Friday on Between Two Work Wars. So see you.